All right, this is to answer Nate's question vis-a-vis that passage. So I'm going to treat this a few different ways. Do my best to keep it as concise as possible. But basically, what we've got is the beginning situation. Opponent is in Eisenport. I'm going to be in this guard right here. So if my opponent's sword is in the center, that's what I'm going to try and attack through it. If my opponent does nothing, as I bring my strong to his weak, I'm just going to finish the thrust. Right? The moment that my hilt connects with his blade, right? The moment I get to here, and I know that he's done nothing to mitigate this thrust, I'm just going to finish it. So my opponent has two different ways that he can respond in the moment, right? So as I come up, the first way, which we haven't gone over yet, Tommy, but the first way is just if he lifts his hilt, like he just lifts his hilt up into the air, right? So I go to stab, I throw that, and he goes high. What I'm probably going to do in this situation is I'll probably hit a hip cut or some kind of low cut, right? I'm watching in those moments for him to bar in response to that. So I'm here, I throw my thrust, he goes high with the hilt, I watch him bar. Do it one more time. Actually, that was, yeah, because I thrusted this way. The Meyer's image is actually different. I probably prefer the one I just did, but Meyer's image looks a little different like this. Come in, boom, he goes high with his hilt. I see him bar, and I'm just going to stab on the other side of his barring. Also working this, Tommy, do it again. So I come up, boom, he goes high, I see, and I stab through. So that's the way I'm going to treat my opponent in this situation if his hilt goes high. I know the moment I get to here, I can see what's happening. I can see his hilt move, I can see his point move. His hilt's going high, I know I'm going to be setting up for a low cut to a bar. A low cut to his barring to the reverse thrust. The other thing is his sword could do nothing, right? Which we already said. The moment I see his sword does nothing, I'm just going to hit with my strong, stab through his weak. The final thing is if I see that he strengthens his structure, orienting in the direction of my sword to mitigate the thrust. So I'm here, I bring this over. As soon as I see this come up, I'm just going to use my extension to try and get my strong in front of his weak. So again, I'm here, I stab, I see that he's strengthening, and I'm going to snap it around. I'm going to try and get my strong in front of his weak, and then if I finish, if I get that far, I'm going to finish. Everything else remains the same. So I'm here, I bring it up, he crosses, I snap around, I get my strong in front of his weak, and I finish with the thrust. Now, how can my opponent respond to this? My opponent can respond two different ways. He can either cross or he can lift his hilt. If my opponent lifts his hilt, it's tempting to durchwechseln, but my problem with durchwechseln is my point never leaves the vicinity of his hilt. So I get to here, I thrust, he crosses, I get this out in front, he starts to lift his hilt. So the suggestion to durchwechseln in this case, and then somehow thrust under his blade to his face. I don't know if Meyer wants us in right or left ox. Either way, so we do that one more time. So I'm here, boom, he crosses. I come over, he lifts his hilt. I do this. Even if I do this, it's all very cumbersome. My point never leaves the vicinity of his hilt. All of this motion, all of the motion that it takes for me to get from here to here, or from here to here, is enough time for him to move his hand 2 inches to mitigate my thrust, right? So that's my problem with changing through in this action. So if I'm here and I thrust up, he crosses, I get my shield in front, he lifts his hilt, I'm not going to try and change through here. I'm just going to cut. That's it. I might, depending on if he lifted his hilt out. If he lifts his hilt straight up, I might cut his hand or his torso as I come up. So I come up, boom, I'm here, I go, and I just hit here. So work index, please. So I'm here, boom, I get to here, he lifts his hilt, and I can just cut to the belly, or as he's lifting, so I'm here, he lifts his hilt, I can just cut to the hand. Any of those options are pretty viable. So finally, what am I going to do? So if they cross a second time, so think about what it would require for them to cross a second time. I've gotten my strong in front here. I'm going to get this here. There you go. Now, so in order for him to be able to mitigate this thrust, he has to lift his hilt. He doesn't want to bring his hand way out here because then he's going to get crucified. So he wants to lift his hilt and keep his point down. So that's the only way that he can mitigate this thrust from this position. Remember where we're starting from. We're starting from here. So the only way that he can break through is if he catches on the strong, keeping his point down, strong on my weak. Okay? So now, this is where we wind under. Okay? So I'm here, I get this home, I get this over. He does this, I'm going to step in that direction, and then Tommy's, because of how low Tommy's hand is, I can only step to his chest. If Tommy brought his hand up into an actual left ox, right ox, so I'm here, boom, boom, I can hit the face, right? So that's the way that I'm treating that technique, assuming all of those other things that we just talked about have already been dealt with in some way, right? Whether or not, you know, again, in my initial action, my opponent does nothing, I get to here, I just finish. Or my initial action, they lift their hilt, I can come here, they lift their hilt, and then they try and bar, I reverse thrust. They cross the first time, I get this in front, and then I finish. I get this in front, he comes this way, I stab in the face, or if he lifts his hilt, so boom, get to here, then I just cut to the belly. That's the way I'm treating that passage, right? So obviously, Meyer only explicitly talked about one or two of those techniques, but we're assuming all of those when we look at the way that that plays out.